So let me tell you about the place I come from. I'm from Mqanduli in the Eastern Cape. You've probably never heard of it. If you have never seen it, and you may never see it in your life. But this is where I herded cattle, I looked after sheep, and I tilled the land. From 3 a.m., we produced all senza, all echana, all solons. It is this life that explains why, personally, I'm here today. Deep down, some of us are instinctively village people. We are at my home, Zwelisha location in Mqanduli, and this is where I was born, the main homestead. I think when I was a baby, there's a structure behind the right at the end. There was a rondavel there. So when I was a baby and I came back from the hospital, that's where I would have gone in 1975. And I was raised by my grandparents. Every structure that was here at the time, I mean, most of them are gone, was made of mud bricks that my grandmother and her friends in the village made themselves, the bricks with ilima. It's called litsima in Sesotho, but ilima, like come together and they made the bricks. And this is my home. When I grew up, there was a lot of surrogacy in the community because the younger men often married with wives and children would go and work in the mines. And the people that remained would not be abandoned. There would be older people in the community, such as my grandfather. Their role was to act as surrogates. My family is diverse. The experiences are diverse. My great-grandmother being a domestic worker. My grandmother was a housewife who farmed geese and pigs and so on. My grandfather was a teacher and was a school principal. He was a very calm person, quiet almost, right? And yet he was able to bring people together. He had a lot of influence and people respected him. But my grandmother is my hero. If we brought a problem to my grandmother and she agreed that it's a problem, and you had to see her get up to go and deal with it, it was like a flash, and she would bolt out the door and go and sort it out right now. There was no waiting. But she was also fair, so she could like fight with people. And then the next day, she's having roasted mealies outside. It's over, we dealt with it yesterday.
So he grew up in a place where it was always full. Even people who were Amakisa, they were there. We grew up in a family where everybody was there, my place. People will say in the whole area, take him to Kwatishala, take him, send Kwatishala, and everybody would take him to this place. So he grew up in a family where everybody was honored, whether he's disabled or not. His two uncles, the first one, which was Vuyani, who died in Lesotho raids in the ANC camp, was also gave him a light, though he was still very, very young.
Vuyani was working in Umtata here as a clerk, and he would visit home like everyone. But then there came a time when he was cast from home and he didn't visit for a long time. It transpired that he had skipped the country, and we did not know when and how it happened. And then came the Maseru raid of 1982. And one attorney was working in Umtata here, came here to report to the family that of the 22 people who died there, one of them was Vuyani. And so that's how we came to know that he was in Lesotho. They were attacked overnight, massacred actually. by the white police of the then white regime. My parents were devastated, so much that it even broke my mother's health.
The violence we've come through as a country, in Vuyani himself, in the deteriorating health of my grandmother, once Vuyani passed away. And in fact, when I went to boarding school, I never saw her again. So she went into the hospital and she passed away. So it's hard. As my uncle was saying, the whole thing broke her health.
I did not have money for Model C schools, but someone invited me to a school which was called All Saints Senior College. All Saints Senior College was sponsored by Kellogg's Foundation.
I came for the entrance test in 1990, and I actually didn't think I was going to be accepted at all. I felt I had struggled. And when my mom said to me that I'd been accepted, I was stunned. And so we came, and I remember that we came the day before, or 2 days before, the school opening. And then we did orientation the day before.
Yeah.
And then on the day schools were supposed to open, we went to class. Now, I come from a school where orientation begins, the day teaching is supposed to start. And like we went to each class, we got our books, and they started teaching immediately. I mean, that got me dizzy.
And homework.
And homework, and then we got homework, and it was due tomorrow. And so you're in the middle of that adjustment. The kids that you're in school with speak different languages.
Yeah.
From all over. Some are speaking isiZulu, Chivenda, Sesotho, Setswana. So it's like there is a lot that you're dealing with. I can't remember who told us that Madiba was coming.
We didn't know. We were suddenly told, and if you remember, we ran up there.
Oh, you also didn't know?
I didn't know.
He really affirmed us. He said, "You look great."
Yeah. Do you remember Songezo? He said what a leader is.
Yeah.
That was the big moment, because he said a good leader, he leads from behind, except when it comes to times of danger.
Yeah.
Then he moves to the front. And basically, he's saying that leadership mustn't just think that they are now, must be always in the front. And I think Songezo, if I may say so, has picked up some of those sorts of messages that we shared at All Saints.
Yeah, and he also said that he told us it's important to study. He said, "I'm old."
Oh yeah.
You remember? He said, I'm very old. I'm not going to be around for long. I'm going to be irrelevant. It's you guys who must stay.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I got a career guidance teacher for the first time, and I had wanted to be a journalist, and but she was always talking about all of these professional careers, like being an accountant and this kind of thing. I enrolled for a national diploma in public relations management with Technicon SA, just for that year, and then I was going to get some credits and then do journalism after. But I enjoyed it. So the following year, I just went to P-Tech and I got a job at Volkswagen. I started working here in 1998 as an intern. So working in a big factory like this, with the kind of complexities that it has, is on its own character building. But being a shy person, it was also the first time I got to do public speaking. Not all the employees could understand English well. There were quarterly general meetings with thousands of workers. I had to interpret this into class. And so I got used to speaking in front of thousands of people, at least 4 times a year. And I also became famous because of it, because everybody would see me there. And so I still meet a lot of people from that time who greet me I was called by my surname here, Zibi. So they just say, "Hey, Zibi!" And I look at them and I just know that one is from Volkswagen. I kept the friendships here which endure to this day, including my wife that I met here.
He actually came to do a presentation for us. We were graduate trainees about, the company, about the products, what we go through during induction. After that, I didn't see him for months, but I saw him at church. Just grew from there. One thing that I've appreciated being married to him is the fact that I didn't feel that I needed to be superwoman. From work, I can seriously just relax. He was very hands-on when the kids were growing up.
So when I left Volkswagen, I worked for Extrata, a mining company, which was a new field for me. And it was also transformative in terms of how I understood the purpose of government and politics, because it was during the time of the mining charter and how communities can and should benefit out of mining. It was during the Marikana time and so on. And look, I learned a couple of things. The first is that the functioning of government is very important to whether an economy is going to grow or not. And in the mining experience, I saw government not working as it should. It wasn't necessarily corruption. It was just a case where the regulators didn't appear to understand properly the industry they were regulating, and the industry not appearing to understand the exigencies of being in government. 1. 2, I got to work again with unions, but from NUMSA at Volkswagen to the National Union of Mine Workers and AMCU in the mining sense, which is really important when you are interested in the economy and how you can get all the stakeholders to work together. So that experience was good, and I continue to have excellent friends in the unions.
My first impressions of Songezo, it was rather intimidating before he started at APSA. Reporting to the ex-editor of the Business Day newspaper can be very daunting for any comms person. But very soon, as soon as he started, I realized that this was completely unfounded. And Songezo was just a regular down-to-earth kind of guy. He listens to people before he reacts. He's one of the very few leaders who's willing to change his mind and willing to enter into debate and quite open to being convinced otherwise. So while I support the mission and the greater mission of Rise Mzansi, I'm here because I believe in Songezo's leadership.
Songs is very protective of his family. We put family first. Even with the kids, they know they look after their siblings.
My kids were 13 and 14 when my husband died. And I was working. I'm working in the municipality, and I'm always away from home. And then I decided to take them to boarding school. And they were having issues adapting. And they were having issues of the fact that the father died with a car accident, and I didn't have a car at the time. And then I spoke to Songezo about it, and then Songezo says, okay, we can rotate as a family to help these kids because they are not coping at school. It's only been a year after their death. He could speak their language. He's young. He's the uncle that bayafikeleleka to the uncle, and they would talk about anything and everything. On holidays, he would take my kids to Joburg. He helped my kids heal, and also me forgetting the fact that I don't have a husband.
My family and in my community, they're not cowards. We try and make the best of the circumstances in which we find ourselves. And I think what would be a shame is for my family and many other families. I mean, families were wiped out elsewhere, right? To go through all of that and then we throw it all away. We can't throw it all away. We don't need to wait until things that have gone to the dogs absolutely before we do something, because that becomes really, really difficult. So I think, in a way, as sad as it can be to reflect on the lives of some of my relatives here and how those lives ended, it's also inspiring. These were not people who sat back. These are people who step forward.
He's one of the guys that I trust will make a change, really, a change. We need to teach some people some lessons. They cannot make a mockery of our brothers and husbands' sweat and blood. They should not go in vain. I'm glad that actually he took the baton. And once more, Zibi stands out and stands up for the nation.
Politics cannot just be about positions. It cannot be about making laws for their own sake or controlling budgets. Politics has to be about bringing people together. Politics has to be about creating a sense of community, a powerful sense of community. It has to be about the things that people worry about before they go to bed, the things that connect them to their roots, to their moral center, to their ethical center, and to their values. And I call that the politics of the soul, because it is not the politics of power and positions. It is the politics of people's lives that are wholesome and complete. And it can be done because people have been crying for that kind of politics. We need new leaders who ask the people what they need rather than tell them what's good for them.
It's been a while, my friend. I have watched you fade away into the darkness of all your mistakes. It's time to let it go, 'cause all this time I've been searching for your light in places that you have outgrown. You've come such a long way with your back against the wall, and yet you still rise strong, yet you still